Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Oxnard Live. I'm your host, Daniel Chavez Jr. Well, being as a public figure, you always hear the same concerns and challenges, such as why don't we have enough areas for our youth to be able to play in the parks, soccer's, more recreational activities. But did you know that the city of Oxnard also provides services for our seniors, our older generation, the ones that are still active and ready to move? Well, today we're going to be speaking with Renee from from the city of Oxnard's rec department. We're going to talk about the services that are offered, how it's been going through during the COVID and as we're transitioning away from COVID, as well as ways for people to get involved, to participate, and truly explore the fact that the city of Oxnard has senior services. So for those seniors that are not ready to hang up their hat and say that they're retired and just go away in a chair, you're going to want to hear this. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Renee Rakestraw.
Hello, Daniel. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Renee, for joining me. And like I said, it's kind of one of those odd things because we always hear so much about youth services and recreational, but we never really hear too much about the senior part. I don't even know how many people actually know about the senior services. So before we jump into that, I want to give the people a brief introduction of who you are. How are you in this position? Where did you come from to wind up, being in charge of the senior services?
So, back in 2002, I was returning from college. I had just graduated and received my bachelor's degree and was looking to come back home. I was born and raised here in the city of Oxnard, spent my entire life here, moved away for a few years to get my degree and looking to come back home. And so, like many of our youth and young adults, I participated in recreation programs growing up myself, and just looking up to the staff, and that was one of the places that I looked for a job to apply for. So in 2012, I applied for a recreation leader position. It was my first official interview in life, and I received the job of a recreation leader at our summer camp. And so I was with our summer camp for about 12 years. So every summer we had some holiday camps. I was one of the staff and then eventually moved into the director position for the summer camp. And in 2014, I changed my career from an educator into the recreation field. So I came on as a coordinator, as a full-time employee with the city at that point, and was a coordinator for a short period, and then moved into the supervisor position, seeing just a wide variety of programs here within recreation. I started out with youth sports and senior services. And then I moved from a recreation supervisor into the current position that I'm sitting in now, which is a community services manager, which oversees all of our recreation programs, including senior services.
Wow. Born and raised in the city of Oxnard, went through the rec program, and now you get to serve in the rec program, giving back to the community that you were born and raised in. That, it's one of those things that you don't really hear those stories too often, that people born and raised and went through a program and now they're giving back the same way that that program gave to them. So I think that's amazing, and thank you for sharing that.
It's actually a common story for our recreation division. You'd be surprised at how many, our director has this very similar story. Started out, as a recreation leader one, and is now the director of our department. So many of us actually within this division have a similar story. It's hard not to look up to staff who are good role models as you go through the program, and to think it's a fun job too.
Wow, that I guess I'm gonna have to speak more to the rec department and listen to their stories because again, it's not a very common story, but it sounds like it's extremely common in the recs department, which a lot of people know. It always is an area that gets cut when budget season comes around, and when things need to get trimmed. So, but we're going to learn a little bit more about the senior service part of it. And then later on, we'll also have you and your director come back on and we'll talk about the other areas of the department too. So our residents are well informed of the services that are provided by the city. Uh, but I want to touch on, well, as you know, COVID is still lingering around.
Mhm.
And back in 2020, it affected a lot of city government services. It affected the economy. It affected people on a regular basis. What were the challenges that we're seeing um, from rec, from the senior services eyes during COVID? Because the senior services actually provide a lot of services. What services were kept? What services had to be modified? What services were like created in order to deal with the pandemic?
So when COVID hit, it was March 15th when we began to close our programs. And one of our very first programs that we closed was senior services in our senior centers, because it was one of the most vulnerable populations at that time, and still to this day. So we closed the doors to our senior centers, and we knew that there would remain the need to feed our seniors. And we were right. We quickly transitioned all of our staff into senior nutrition. Um, we had two components to senior nutrition here in senior services. One was the home delivered meals for seniors who are homebound. And the other was our congregate meal program, which are hot meals that seniors would come to the Palm Vista or Wilson Senior Center to enjoy on a daily basis. It's a lunch. Um, so we knew we couldn't go away with serving meals. So what we did is our staff transitioned from the congregate meal setting, which was in person at our centers, to hot meals to go. And it was a very quick transition. So our seniors were able to come still to the Wilson and Palm Vista centers, but simply pick up a hot meal and take it home with them. Our home delivered component changed. We had the Great Plates program come on board, and World Central Kitchen, which provided additional meals to our home delivered participants. But that list of participants grew immensely. Many of our congregate participants switched over to the home delivered option. And so we had our staff now going out along with Food Share, going out to deliver these home delivered meals in person. And, it's so important for our seniors to still have face-to-face contact. So it's literally a knock on the door, a wellness check, and meals for them to enjoy within their home. So it was a quick transition. We did transition some of our programs into virtual components, but really our staff was really consumed on food distribution and making sure that our seniors were fed.
Wow, that definitely has to be very challenging for our seniors, uh, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I know for a fact I am like that. When my routine is disrupted, it really throws me off. And I'm pretty sure for our seniors, they experience similar situations. They're used to getting up, doing their morning routines, then going over to one of the centers, picking up their meals, maybe a little chit chat, and then on with the rest of their day. What were the feelings from them during this transition of not being able to visit the senior centers, not being able to share in those meal conversations?
For the first few weeks of the pandemic and the closures, I think it was really a sense of being scared in many aspects. and remaining safe was their main concern. And, for us as a department or as a division, we're recreation and community services is our division title. So it wasn't difficult for our staff to transition from our everyday, we'll say, normal duties into more community service-based duties. And, having seniors' mental state in mind when we're interacting was so important for us. Making sure that they felt safe, making sure that we had protocols in place where they would feel safe. And so we had a line outside of both of the centers when it was meal pickup time, but it was the 6 feet social distancing, making sure we had the sanitizer and we're sanitizing everything. We really, really set up those protocols to ensure their safety and to make sure that they felt that way. They felt like they were in a safe environment. As time progressed, you saw the seniors that were standing in line begin to conversate again. And then in time, they transitioned to, I'm not taking my meal home. I'm going to go and sit on this park bench. Would you like to come and sit 6 feet away from me? So you saw that social component, which is so important to senior nutrition. You saw them having the desire for it. And so they began to sit at, say, Wilson Park and enjoy their meals on a picnic table. And then we started to see them just coming in the morning, and where they would normally come in and enjoy a cup of coffee together inside the building, we saw them doing that outside in the park. So it was just a matter of time where they felt a little more comfortable. But, there still is that fear because we're back open at this point. All our centers are back open, but we've remained balanced in offering services indoors, outdoors, and virtually and on site to make sure that everyone has access during this time.
I think that's beautiful to see them feeling comfortable enough to be able to share a meal or a cup of coffee outside prior to the opening of the senior centers. I want to mention that, and maybe it might have changed, the hot meals, are those still served daily at 11:30? Or did the times change as the pandemic struck? And
Right. So yes, they're still served at 11:30 daily at both Wilson and Palm Vista locations. We just ask, we prepare as many meals as they are reserved. And so we just ask anyone who is interested in the senior nutrition program to give us a call if they're going to show up for a meal. And our phone number is 805-385-8029. And that's our direct senior nutrition hotline. If anyone has any questions, they can pick up and dial that phone number for answers.
now these meals, they're obviously they're designed to be beneficial to our seniors and their dietary needs. And are these, I guess, a lack of a better word, who pays for these? Because somebody has to be able to pay for these services. So where is the funding come to be able to provide these meals for individuals?
So there is an agency known as Ventura County Area Agency on Aging, and they oversee the senior nutrition program and grant here in the entire county of Ventura. So they award the funding to the city of Oxnard, which covers both home delivered and congregate meal cost.
Now, and even there's age limits, and anybody who lives in Ventura County knows that there's different senior age limits depending on which city you go to. Some cities are 55, other cities are 60, others are 65. What is the age limit or requirement to be able to receive the meals? Or is there a restriction on, because I doubt I can go and be part of the services.
Well, you can come, but we're going to charge you. So so anyone 60 and older, it's donation based. So You know, if we're in the county, Oxnard receives the lowest amount of donations. We ask for a suggested donation of $3. There's really no pressure to that donation. On average, our donation is about 50 cents here in the city of Oxnard. So it is donation based for those 60 and older. However, individuals younger than 60 can also enjoy the meal. It's just $6.75 that would need to be paid. So, you know, if there's a spouse or a caregiver that wants to come and enjoy a meal with a senior, they can do so. They just have to pay the $6.75 to do so.
Now, are there opportunities for residents, like say I wanted to make a donation to the senior nutrition? Is there an option for people to do that?
Definitely, it offsets our costs. So by donating to Oxnard Senior Nutrition, Oxnard Senior Services, but specifically for the senior nutrition, it goes directly back in to offset the cost of senior nutrition. So yes, definitely. That
Awesome.
would be great. And you had mentioned, Daniel, you know, that having a dietitian or the meal preparation on the menus, there is a dietitian that coordinates all of the menus for the senior nutrition. So it does have, it's a certified dietitian that keeps seniors' dietary needs in mind when we're forming these menus.
That's great. Now, we mentioned two senior centers, the Palm Vista and the Wilson, but there's actually two additional senior centers that Oxnard manages, and one that just reopened after being closed for nearly 5 years, or at 5 years. Tell us a little bit about those other senior centers and the one that just finally reopened.
So we have officially 4 senior centers now. So we have the South Oxnard Center, which is off of Bard. We have the Palm Vista Senior Center, which is just up the street on C Street between, I want to say 8th and 9th, if I'm not mistaken, might be 7th and 9th, at the Palm Vista Housing complex, and we're on the bottom floor there with the senior center. The Wilson Senior Center is known as our main senior center, and the Colonial Senior Center just did a grand reopening on July 1st, and that is alive and thriving. The one thing I will say about the senior centers is they're all different. Each center has a different dynamic of participants, so it's not a one size fits all. If one center isn't a good fit for a senior, we often encourage them to visit the other senior centers. We put out a monthly calendar with all of our activities for every single center, and there are different activities every single day at every single location. So it's not at 9 o'clock, we're having Tai Chi at every center. Nope, there's something different going on at 9 o'clock at each location. So we put out that monthly calendar. It's available on our social media and our website, which I know I'll try and plug at the very end of this. But I would say for anyone interested on specific programs, keep your eye out for that calendar that we put out each month.
Now, me and you, we've had conversations prior to our show tonight. And one of those conversations was around the Colonial Senior Service Center, and how the Senior Service Commission, which is one of those odd things, because when you think commission, you know, you think the planning commission, you think community relations, park and rec, but you don't really hear too much about the Senior Services Commission. Can you share their goals? Because one of their goals through our conversation was to bring back the Colonial Senior Center.
You know, the Senior Services Commission is probably the best kept secret of all the commissions. You know, they're great. Our commissioners are unbelievable. Between staff, myself, and our coordinators here at Senior Services and the commissioners, we really tackle the job together. They set annual goals. And they started that process back in 2015 when I came aboard with the commission. That was one of my first tasks was helping them set annual goals. And that was when I first heard about the Colonial Senior Center being closed. And so it was in the housing project that was demolished and is now known as the Las Cortes area. And it was a thriving, alive, vibrant senior center. I unfortunately didn't have the chance to enjoy it, but from what I heard, it was the place to be out of all of our senior centers. So when it was closed, we relocated our services to the Palm Vista location. And many of the seniors who lived in the Colonial area were now being bused over to Palm Vista to still enjoy the center. But that didn't mean everybody came over. So it was important for the commissioners to keep the idea of returning to the Colonial area alive. And so they set it as a goal back in 2015, I want to say, to return to the Colonial neighborhood with some programming. And so every year since then, I want to say between meetings with myself, the commissioners, any opportunity they had to plug in their goals, they reminded our community that that was a missing component that we needed to get back to. So with our new situations, as far as our funding opportunities, we were able to make our way back to the Colonial area. So similarly to the South Oxnard Senior Center, we are using the youth center location, which is right next to the basketball gymnasium. And so we have senior programs by day, and in the afternoon, we have our youth center programs. So it's a dual effort, similarly to South Oxnard Center. It's already alive, thriving. I just saw a video this morning of some singing and guitar playing in the center. So it's just so good to see that it was a quick return for many individuals. They were just waiting to knock on that door.
And I think it also comes at a great time as, restrictions were already being lifted, and it was just a really great time to build back those connections that were lost during that time. So I think that's amazing. And I want to mention that the Senior Services Commission is definitely not a joke. These individuals, and I remember back in 2016, myself and Michelle Ascension, our former city clerk, who now works for the county, we both attended a meeting. Now, they're early in the morning, which I consider 9 o'clock early compared to our other commission meetings. And they run that meeting very, very nicely. And a lot of great information is being bounced around. We also have vacancies on that commission. And what are the requirements for somebody maybe interested in joining the Senior Services Commission?
So, with our commissions, it is a district-based appointment. So we do have 3 vacant seats. I don't recall the exact districts that those are vacant seats, but I'll say beggars can't be choosers also. So if you're interested, apply, and then we can figure it out from there. But we are asking for somebody, I believe the age limit is 55 and older. So it is somebody who is a senior that has the ability to meet once a month. We meet Tuesday mornings, the second Tuesday of the month at 9 a.m. Our meetings, can last anywhere from an hour to 3 hours at times, depending on the workload that's there. Like I said, a lot of our commissioners are involved in subcommittees outside of the commission, so there is some work that is done. But it's fun work. I'll say that. It's getting to know the services within senior services. And, the interesting part when we get a new commissioner is it's not uncommon to hear, I didn't know all of this was available. And what I explained there is, you don't know about the best podiatrist until you have a foot problem. And so with senior services, it's similar to that. We don't know what services are out there until we need them. and this is going back to, your original comments of us being under the recreation division. Our society and community knows the benefits of recreation in the lives of our youth. And we need to keep that attitude through our older years, because it's just as important to stay active, to stay engaged, to continue, meeting up, to continue going in and socializing and just checking in with individuals and being engaged in the community. So we try our best to make sure that we're out there in the community with that.
Well, I guess I'll pull my application out. I thought I was going to be the newest commissioner on senior services, but I guess not.
A few years.
Don't say a few years. Well, maybe it's time to dye the gray hairs or
double
something.
your life, right?
But I want to talk about the services specifically. Well, before we transition to the actual services that are offered, the commission is also has a big hand. We mentioned the Colonial Senior Center. We also mentioned their priority, their goals, annual goals. We also mentioned their collaboration with local agencies throughout the county. But we also know that they also had a hand in the new construction of the senior center that is expected to come online a few years down the road. Can you touch a little bit about that? And what does the new center mean for the Oxnard community?
Okay, so I'll plug in for the nonprofit group to start so I don't forget that. Visit their website, which is ORCAS, ORCAS. It's the acronym for Oxnard Recreation Center for Adults and Seniors. So the website is orcasoxnard.org. And so the back in 2012, the commission or the city completed a master plan for a study on the need for a new senior center. And it was decided back then that we needed a new additional senior center. The senior population is booming. We have the baby boomers coming into the senior population, and we're expecting with this census to potentially double in size with our senior population. So the need for services is only going to increase. So having an additional center, having a center that is also on the west side of our city was important for the commissioners. So they have marked the 5th and Patterson location, and back in 2012 went back to council sharing that location and really getting a stamp of approval for that location and to move forward with efforts of building the new senior center. And so in 2014, 2015, when we were establishing those goals, of course, building of a new senior center was on that on the annual goals for the commission. And each of the goals has a subcommittee to make sure that it's tackled by the commission. And so I believe it was 3 commissioners that started out at that time on the subcommittee. And so it was, the idea back then was bake sales. And so let's build this state-of-the-art multi-million-dollar senior center, and our expertise lied on bake sales. So we had a lot of learning to do. We've done a lot of work since then. So the subcommittee of 3 commissioners turned into a board for a nonprofit group. The 3 commissioners went out and began to seek additional volunteers to be part of their board and to volunteer towards the efforts of building the new senior center. One of them, and they were smart in grabbing volunteers and in looking for areas of expertise. One of them was an individual who had real estate experience and marketing background and an attorney who who assisted in the development of the nonprofit. So they were really looking for expertise and still are. So if anyone's interested in volunteering or learning more, get in touch with us or the Orcas Oxnard group. So it's basically now it's become a nonprofit board that is overseeing the efforts towards building the new senior center. At this time, it is a collaboration between the city of Oxnard and the Orcas group, or the Orcas nonprofit. So the plan is for the city of Oxnard to build the senior center on the 5th and Patterson location, and Orcas will operate and manage the senior center. Different model than what we're currently running our 4 senior centers on. But the idea of this location is, to be a collaboration with Oxnard Senior Services. We're not going to leave our 4 centers behind. There is the plan in building the new senior center that we will also invest in our current senior centers and rehab them or renovate them to bring them up to speed. So, with this booming population, the intent is not to close one of our senior centers and open a new one. It's to add to the services being offered to our community.
Wow, that's amazing. And I live relatively close to the new proposed location, so that would be very interesting. And I know there's a lot of seniors in my neighborhood. I think the average age for Marina West neighborhood is about 57 for the age. So I'm on the younger side of the neighborhood, but definitely there are many seniors, and I believe it would be a huge benefit to the area, definitely.
Right. And that right there, saying the average age is 57, that right, tells you that that's the population that's going to be growing into our program. So we're preparing for them.
Sounds great. And I'm pretty sure the seniors will be happy the day that get to cut the ribbon and walk into those buildings. And I believe Measure E is coming in at a great time also to be able to assist with renovating and rehabbing our current senior centers to bring them up. Is that the hopes that Measure E steps in, or is there other funding sources that the senior service is going to be looking for at?
So Measure E is supporting some of the senior services programs currently. Such as our senior nutrition program. Part of that is subsidized by Measure O and now Measure E. The new senior center, the city is planning to take a bond out for the new senior center. So yes, it is within the council priorities of the Measure E funds, but we're looking at it in the next 5 years to get that built.
Sounds good. I want to touch now on the services that are offered at our senior centers. The large list of different items, which again, it's clear our seniors are not ready to retire. They are not ready to just settle down and watch grass grow. These are very active seniors. So just a few programs, RSVP, and no, we're not reserving our spot for anything. It's an acronym. We have STOP, we have Bone Builders, Tai Chi. So let's touch on a few of those. Let's talk about RSVP because I don't want anybody to think that we're reserving our spot for something. And then we'll go into STOP.
So RSVP is the acronym for Retired Senior Volunteer Program. So it's, we get a lot of newly retired seniors looking to redefine where, what their purpose is. So our RSVP coordinator comes in and she's really good at sitting down and interviewing the potential volunteer. So she really, gets down and here's their life story, here's their experience, but also where they want to give back. And we have everything from, exercise instructors to individuals that go out and glean the fields for food share to tax assistance, tutoring within care facilities. You mentioned STOP, which is a newer program under the RSVP umbrella. that is seniors tackling the opioid problem. And so what we were doing pre-COVID was we were partnering with Oxnard PD to do drug takebacks. So as you know, the amount of medications that you begin to be prescribed as you age increases. And what do you do with that? And many seniors say, I dump it down the toilet, which is not what we want to do with our drugs. So we have various locations and opportunities for seniors to bring in their unused medicines. And really, we're aiming for the opioid prescriptions. And so not only is it a matter of giving them an opportunity to turn in their prescriptions or medications, but education. Because so many times there's these prescriptions that are given to seniors and they have no idea what they mean. They hear the word opioid, but not connecting it with the actual generic or the name of the prescription. So it's partly a take back, but partly an educational component for our senior community. And so, that's been a great program. We kicked it off with Ventura County Behavioral Health and partnered with OPD to get that going. And soon it will be making a comeback. I'll
just say real quick that you made a comment in regards to as we get older, we get more prescriptions. I will be turning 32 next week, and definitely I've been seeing an increase in my prescriptions. And that's always been one of the biggest challenges of what do I do with them? Because a lot of times, I get prescribed something and I don't use it, or depending on what it is, because I actually have an injury from work. And of course, they're doing the muscle relaxers and doing all these crazy things to try to, relax me and, do with the pain. But I don't use them because people grow that addiction to medication, and I just prefer not to deal with it. So they kind of just sit there. Then they expire, and then they kind of just sit in my cupboard for a little bit longer because I don't know the proper steps to actually dispose of them. So you said that it's making a comeback of those sites now. Was this a monthly thing, a weekly thing? Is this a yearly thing that's daily that occurs, that people can go and dispose of old medication that they have?
So in order to receive the drugs, we need an officer on site. So we have to coordinate with their schedules in order to have them on site for the program. So we were doing it, I want to say twice a month at various locations, and within our senior centers for the most part, but we were going outside of the actual centers also. You make a good point that it just sits there, and that's often the mentality or the thought process for our seniors. But what we learned through this program and in working with Ventura County Behavioral Health was they weren't just sitting there. They were ending up in the hands of teenagers, the grandchildren, the kids of the seniors, or they are ending up in their hands. And hence the opioid pandemic. It's a problem. So it's not only an opportunity for us to dispose and take back and empty that medicine cabinet, but it's also to keep the family safe.
Of course. And I just wanted to mention real quick before you go on to your next point was you mentioned gleaning, and for those that don't know what gleaning is, it just means it's an opportunity to go and pick the crops from the local farm. As we remember, last year we had Food Share Director Jennifer Caldwell join us and talk about gleaning and how that process was going out. And it's a great volunteer opportunity. So if you want to be able to participate, you don't have to be a senior. You could be me and young. Just reach out to Food Share and you can be able to assist them with gleaning. And these are produce that are going to those that need it.
Yes.
So Back to you, Renee.
So yeah, I'll comment on that. We, during COVID, we partnered with Food Share to put on the mega distribution site out at College Park. And seeing the amount of fruit that would come out and vegetables into the hands of individuals that were coming through that distribution, there's a great need. And so anybody who can volunteer, I highly encourage individuals to contact any, people that are not necessarily seniors. Food Share is always looking for volunteers. But to move on to some other programs that are within RSVP, and fortunately for us, we have a good creative mind, Mary Sue Eastlake, that puts together a lot of these programs or proposes them for the grant, which is the RSVP grant. Bone Builders is one of her babies, I'll say, and that is really, it's an evidence-based, low impact, low weight bearing program that is to combat osteoporosis, to build bones, to build strength, and to improve balance. But then also going back to a common theme that I continue to bring up, a social component. It's not only allowing them to get stronger, but it also gives them an opportunity to make friends. So the Bone Builders class is 2 to 3 times a week for 1 hour. If you can come all 3 days, that's great. If you can only come 1 day, then we accommodate that. We currently have 2 classes offered here at Wilson. Those are slow to get back on board. Our Bone Builders classes are actually county-wide. We're in 4 different cities with those Bone Builders, but it's RSVP volunteers that are the instructors for that class. So anyone who's interested, we have the 2 classes here at Wilson, and we also have some classes available via Zoom. So if anyone's interested in that, you can always jump in at any point in time. There's no start or end date for those classes. And then we have our Tai Chi program, which started, I want to say, about 3 or 4 years ago. It was integrated into the RSVP program. And so Tai Chi, Moving for a Better Balance, is an evidence-based program focused on an 8-form Tai Chi for seniors. It's a 12-week course, and it's taught progressively. So you learn 1 form and then build upon that. And by the last class, you have learned all 8 forms. Because of that, we ask that anyone who wants to join the class does so within the first couple of classes. So we currently have a class on Zoom. We have a class out at Oxnard Beach Park. But there is a waiting list for the next classes that are going to open, just because you got to wait till the next class starts once you miss that first couple of class window for that. But that also is an evidence-based, and really it's, both Bone Builders and Tai Chi are fall prevention programs for our seniors.
Now I want to sign up for Tai Chi. That sounds amazing, but it's good to have a waiting list because it shows that there's a lot of interest in it. And unfortunately, you got to wait until the whole program starts again. Is it initiated annually, like the first month of January, or is it kind of staggered as to when the course recycles?
So we have classes in Camarillo, in Ventura, in Oxnard. So we're spread out throughout the county with our Tai Chi program. So if somebody's willing to travel non-COVID, they usually can just jump right into a class, or it's a couple weeks out before another class is starting. There's no consistent start and end dates. We're really at the mercy of the schedule of our volunteers. So, some of them like to go through the 12-week course and start right back up, but some like to take a little vacation and come back a week or 2 later. So it's really at the discretion of the volunteers. It's best to just call our office, or for any of our RSVP programs, Bone Builders, Tai Chi, Stop. We also have a program known as Chat, that just got integrated into the RSVP program during COVID. And that's really a social communication. Pick up the phone and call a friend, phone a friend. So it's volunteers that are setting up phone calls twice a week with seniors who are homebound right now, or who are not wanting to go out but still wanting to socialize. So all of the RSVP programs, Chat, Stop, Tai Chi, Bone Builders, all of them are really to combat social isolation and to keep our seniors healthy, active, and engaged. Anyone who's interested in any of those programs can send an email to rsvp@oxnard.org to get more information.
Awesome. I want to, so I'm looking at this list and I see exercise classes such as stretching and walking, the Tai Chi as already mentioned, the bone builders, Zumba, and chair exercises and meditation. I have never participated in Zumba, but I've seen Zumba, and that is actually very intense and really truly gets the heart moving. How are seniors doing with that, with the Zumba? Of course, we want to make sure that we're respectful of their abilities as well. So how has that been?
So they do move. They drip sweat. If you walk into one of our senior Zumba classes, they have the full-on gear and are very active. And this goes back to our original conversation that senior services, so often we hear, I'm not going to the senior center, I'm not that old, I don't need that service yet. But we're missing the boat, that we still need to stay healthy, active, and engaged. What are the benefits of recreation programs? What are the benefits of putting our youth into a team, a sports team? What's the benefits of putting them into a musical class or lessons? And it's the same exact benefits or very similar benefits for seniors, but we forget that for ourselves. We invest in our families and our children and our grandchildren, but as we age, we forget that we need to do that for ourselves. So participating in something like Zumba, we have active seniors. When we're talking seniors, it could be somebody who's 50 years old that is running next to somebody who is 90 years old who's running circles around them. Age is just, they say is a matter of mind, right? it's for us, for our job, we need to have programs out there for everyone, no matter what their ability, physically, mentally, whatever it is. We need to make sure that those needs are met. So having a program as active as Zumba, but then something like Bone Builders where you can sit in a chair and it's low weight bearing and it's only a pound or two that you're actually using, is important for us here. You mentioned the stretching classes, and we have a walking program. There's a gentleman that was walking out at Wilson, and he kicked off our walking program, and he's dropped 30 pounds over COVID. So it's just little things like that that are keeping our seniors active, keep them waking up and excited to live life. And that's what we get to do for a living, which is exciting.
And I agree that, in my profession, we learned a lot about mental health, wellness, and physical wellness. I drive buses, and I can drive a bus, 10, 11 hours a day, and commute to work and commute from back home. And one of the things that we always saw after an operator retired was that a month or unfortunately even a couple of weeks later, they would pass away. Mm-hmm. And we would try to figure out why. And at the end of the day, it boiled down to one thing. And it was an old study that I had read back, was that those that do not have a purpose, they kind of just succumb to just that's it. There's no more.
Right.
But those that do have a purpose, like waking up for a garden, waking up, as you mentioned, to go for a walk or to visit the senior centers, are expected to live a longer and more healthier, productive life because there is that purpose for them. So anybody watching or anybody that watches later on, if you have a family member or you yourself is that age, reach out to the senior services department. Let them, and Renee, you mentioned this in multiple times in our conversations, is that the senior service center should be looked at as a hub of information. Let that be the starting point. And definitely with all of these programs, it is not what is portrayed on TV of the little old lady in a rocking chair looking out into the distance. These are active seniors that are doing good things for their own health. And we have a commission that does good for all seniors in the city of Oxnard. So, wow.
And it's like I said, we have a fit for any and everyone. If one spot or one program doesn't fit, we'll find another program that does. And it's, for all ages, for all abilities. Our goal is to provide recreation programs for individuals who are older adults. We ask the community and everybody who's watching to, spread the word that let's get rid of that idea that senior centers are a retirement home, that they're for disabled individuals that are it's, I hear so many times it's people that walk with a cane or walk with a walker go into the senior centers. That's not it. We have some of the best Wii bowling games against one senior against another senior being competitive. We have a group of gentlemen that come in and play pool on a daily basis. We have art classes. It's a little bit of everything, but I think you made it, you touched on something that is really our goal. And it's to be the hub of senior services. Our main priority is to provide recreational services. However, there are a million services available to seniors. And like I said, until you need it, you don't know what's out there. And that's our job, is to make sure that all the information is a one-stop shop. And so if it's a senior that, I just recently retired and I need to find my purpose, or it's a senior that I just can't get out of my house and I need a meal, or if it's somebody that wants to go out and shop for groceries for another senior, we have a program that does that. Or if it's you need a handrail in your restroom, or you need you're having an issue with somebody at a care facility and you need an advocate. That's where we want to be, the hub of senior services. If you don't know where to turn, pick up the phone and give us a call. Those phone calls are the most rewarding phone calls, and the best part of my job is when I can, it's a random phone call. I happen to answer our phone line and I'm on the phone for 45 minutes, an hour. And it starts off with one need, and then we fulfill a million more just in conversation. So especially for seniors, but more importantly for their children and the youth, get your services connected, whether it's for yourself or for your family members. Pick up the phone and make that effort just to know what's out there and what's available for our aging community.
You make a great point in regards to you don't know what's out there until you absolutely need it. You mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, if you need a podiatrist, you don't know which one is the best one until you absolutely need one. And again, you just deliver that fact again, because there's been many times that I myself don't really realize what's out there in my own city, even though I'm actively engaged in my city, but there are still new departments, new services that I'm learning about each and every day. And it's just one of those things that you don't know until you actually search it out. So of course, we will be sharing all the information as far as ways to contact our senior services department, phone numbers, websites, on our social media pages as well.
We appreciate that. We have a website, we have our social media, we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and just simply Googling Oxnard Senior Services, you'll get in contact with us one way or another. Call, send us a message on social media, email us, we will respond as soon as we can, which is fairly quick. So, and if there's something that just didn't sound right, give us a call. Let's have a chat about it. I could keep you on here all night sharing about all the good programs, but I know at some point in time we need to cut this short.
Again, Renee, I do appreciate all the information. And again, this is valuable information. This is creating a new pathway to a new hub for seniors, for family members, as you mentioned, children of seniors, to connect their loved ones to the senior services program. Let them get that interaction. And I think that was one of the biggest things during this pandemic, was the lack of interaction that we had with people, that we saw depression go up. We saw suicide numbers go up. And it was because of the lack of interaction, the lack of face-to-face, even the simplest thing as a handshake is what we lost.
Or a smile.
Or a smile, especially now with the mask, you don't really get to see that too often. And it's funny because in pictures, when I take pictures of people and we have our mask on, I still smile for whatever reason, as if people can actually see it. But
we see it in the eyes.
There we go. It's all in the eyes. Again, I appreciate it. Is there any final words, final comments you want to be able to provide as we wrap up this evening?
I want to thank you, Daniel, for giving us the opportunity to spread the word of senior services. That is one of the goals of our commissioners, is to go out into the community and share information like this. So at the same time, anyone who's listening to, who thinks that this is an opportunity to bring information to a group, give us a call. We can always present this information to other groups, but really spread the word. Senior services is for seniors, but it's often the children and grandchildren that connect our aging residents to our services. So give us a call, take a look at our programs online. I just reach out, stay engaged, stay active, break down the barrier of walking in the front doors of our senior centers. Come and check it out and see what it's about.
Awesome. Thank you, Renee, again. So you heard it. Do not be afraid of those doors. Walk through them. Do not allow the word senior to scare you, because definitely our older generation in Oxnard are not the typical seniors that you saw in movies or read about in stories. These are active individuals that are just enjoying life. That's really what it sounds like they're doing, just enjoying life. So again, thank you, Renee. Ladies and gentlemen, Renee Rakestraw. I apologize. Am I saying your last name right?
It's pretty close. It's Rakestraw.
Rakestraw. Thank you. Renee Rakestraw, Community Services Manager under the Oxnard Rec Department here in the city of Oxnard, who oversees the youth and senior services. So if you want to be able to get in touch with them, be sure to do so at oxnardrec.org. You can also visit them on all of the social media platforms, as was already mentioned: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor. And to learn more specifically in regards to the senior services, you can do oxnardrec.org/seniors. And just check it out. There's no harm in just exploring the website, getting more information. And there are tons of information available on that website. So, and if there's something missing, give them a call. As you can hear, you can speak directly to one of the managers of the department. So if you have questions, be sure to do so. Be sure to join us next week, August 5th, as we have Brian Rosario join us. Basketball coach, Oxnard native, and alumni of TEDx Oxnard, who hosted their first event at the beginning of the year. We'll be talking to him about his experiences growing up in Oxnard, his pathways towards becoming an athletic coach, and then finally ending up on the stage of TEDx Oxnard. That's going to be right here on Oxnard Live with me, your host, Daniel Chavez Jr. And as always, Oxnard Live, all live and 100% real. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.